You can call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Dustin Jacoby takes on Vitor Petrino this weekend at UFC Fight Night Tampa, Florida in a light heavyweight bout. Been going back and forth on this one. I think this is going to be a really fun fight between two guys who like to stand and bang. Vitor Petrino coming off of a loss against Anthony Smith, which just really isn't the best look after seeing how Anthony Smith has looked in his last few performances. I was rewatching that fight. It looked like he was getting his legs hurt, and I don't know if he was getting beat up by Anthony Smith's kicks, but it did look like when he threw a punch he kind of winced. So I don't know if maybe he tweaked his knee, and then Anthony Smith started to continue to batter that leg, and he kind of just shot in a panic takedown and got subbed real quick. But that's concerning for me going up against Dustin Jacoby, who's a phenomenal kickboxer, has fought in Glory, fought Alex Pereira back in Glory, has really good leg kicks, really good strikes, can fight from southpaw and orthodox. The guy can really do it all on the feet. So that was a concerning thing for me to see. Not only that he's getting beat by somebody as bad as Anthony Smith, but that he was getting hurt on the feet by Anthony Smith before he got caught in that guillotine choke. Before that, he beat Tyson Pedro by decision. Not very high on Tyson Pedro. Beat Modestas Bukauskas, but who's not beaten Modestas Bukauskas? Marcin Prachnio, solid win. Anton Turkalj, he went to war with that guy. And I feel like Dustin Jacoby runs through Anton Turkalj. I feel like the fight IQ sometimes on Vitor Petrino isn't the highest. I feel like he makes a lot of boneheaded decisions in his fights, especially in that one against Turkalj. Obviously the one against Anthony Smith, shooting in with his head on the outside and just allowing himself to be choked out. Tapped immediately too. Anthony Smith's a legit black belt, but you'd like to see a little bit more fight in a cage fighter. So that's got me concerned about Vitor Petrino. I know he's only 27. I know he's very young in his career. 11-1. Still got a lot to learn and improve on. A lot of years left. You know, he's probably got 7, 8, 9 years left in the tank. Not even in his athletic prime yet. But then I look at Dustin Jacoby, and Dustin Jacoby is a very good striker. Guy was on an absolute tear. 1-2 draw decision with Iwan Kutalaba, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight winning streak until he lost to Khalil Roundtree, which you can argue that he won. Got beat up bad by Azamat Murzakanov. Azamat Murzakanov dropped him several times, never really allowed him to get anything going. And Azamat Murzakanov, he's like 5'10". He's not the biggest 205er in the world. Definitely didn't have the reach advantage. Beat up Kennedy Nzechukwu back when Nzechukwu was at 205, now moved up to heavyweight. We've seen how good Nzechukwu is as of late, so that's a decent win. But then Alonzo Menifield, kind of not the tallest guy for the division, has the same reach as Dustin Jacoby, and he was dropping Dustin Jacoby in that fight. And then obviously his last fight against Dominic Reyes, where his face planted in the first round. So Dustin Jacoby's got he's taken a lot of damage in the last 3 fights. Been put unconscious and been dropped. I mean, he's been dropped at least 4 or 5 times in those 3 fights, and that's been, not even maybe 18 months time span where he's taken all that damage. I do think he's the better striker than Vitor Petrino in pure striking, I think. But I gotta go with Vitor Petrino on this one. It's hard for me to see somebody like Dustin Jacoby, who's 36 years old now. He's been fighting for a long, long time, not just MMA, but also kickboxing. And to see him kind of hit that 34, 35, where you're starting to, go down the downslope of your career, and to see him start taking all of this damage, I think that he could outpoint Vitor Petrino, but Vitor Petrino has so much power that I feel like he can hurt Jacoby and get him out of there, just given all the damage that he's taken and coming off of a really bad knockout loss to Dominic Reyes. Vitor Petrino kind of holds his hands low. He kind of just wings punches. He's not the most technical guy. He's not as technical as Jacoby. Lacks the IQ at sometimes, but he will shoot takedowns. I think he has some submissions on his. Yeah, he's got arm triangle chokes against Marcin Prachnio. That's a good sub right there, but the majority of them are strikes. I don't feel like he's fought near the competition of Dustin Jacoby. But he's also early in his career. Jacoby's former kickboxer. He's, got almost 30 fights, went on a long run, so he's going to be fighting the better guys. Vitor Petrino's eventually going to get there, but it's hard for me to pick somebody who's 36 years old at 205 who's been taking so much damage against an absolute killer who's coming up in Vitor Petrino. I only see Vitor Petrino cleaning up his strikes, getting better defense, not making dumb decisions, learning from the mistakes that he's made in the octagon. I wanted to go Dustin Jacoby in this because I feel like if he can stay defensively responsible and not get hurt on the feet, he can outpoint Vitor Petrino in the stand-up, and if he can defend the takedowns, I think that he could win a purely stand-up war if he didn't get his chin touched. But he's been getting his chin touched in almost every fight the last 2 years. So but then I look at Dustin Jacoby. I mean, a lot of his wins are against very subpar competition as well. A lot of these guys probably aren't even in the UFC anymore, and if they are, they're bottom feeders. Justin Ledet, Maxime Grishin, Iwan Kutalaba, Darren Stewart, John Allen, Mikhail Olechechek, who fights at middleweight now, Da Moon Jung. Anytime he fights anybody who's top 15 material, Khalil Roundtree, obviously, he questionably could have won that fight. Azam Mirzakhanov, who's undefeated right now. Kennedy Nzechukwu, good win, but again, he's killing himself to get down to 205. Alonzo Minifield, who I don't think is elite. I don't think he's an elite 205er. And then Dominic Reyes, who I do think is elite, who I think's got still potential in this sport. So it seems like whenever he takes that step up in competition, he's getting chinned and beat up. And I don't see him really turning it around at this point, fighting somebody like Vitor Petrino, who's shown to have a good chin. I've seen him get hurt, but I've never seen him put on the ground, so to speak. I don't think. I could be wrong. He's been in a lot of wars, but I just think Vitor Petrino, he's going to be the one making drastic improvements in his game. He's only going to be getting better at his takedowns, his striking defense, tightening up his punches a little bit. He throws kind of looping punches, kind of wings them, and just has so much power that it works out for him. He gets a lot of respect on the feet. A lot of people aren't looking to counter him when he's throwing these big looping punches for fear that they're just going to get chinned. So I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino in this one. I think he could knock out Dustin Jacoby, if not get a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jacoby kind of regroup 6 months off since his last loss, which was a bad loss, faceplant KO. He could have taken a lot more damage in that fight, or in that finish, but the ref stepped in at the right time. But he could regroup, come back with a really good game plan against a young green type fighter, greener than him, who doesn't have as much UFC experience. But I just can't trust his chin against this surging up-and-comer in Petrino, he's a big dude. He's 6'2", he's got to walk around at like 230, easy, just huge. I don't think there's going to be any big reach advantage here. Jacoby's going to be an inch taller at 76-inch reach. Vitor at 6'2", 77.5 inch reach. So he's going to be an inch shorter with an inch and a half reach advantage, and I just think he's the bigger, more muscular type of guy. So I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino in this one by knockout, and if not knockout, decision. Thanks, guys.